Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast, filled with marketing and leadership tips on launching and growing your business with your host, Deanne Mora.
Today on the podcast, I have with me sports and fitness entrepreneur Chad Price. He is co-founder of the online retailer Kettlebell Kings, which he and his partners grew to a multi-million-dollar exit back in 2021. It continues to grow today and has now ranked on the Fortune 5000. He's building a lifestyle brand. He's written a book called Preparing for Battle about building a successful brand and lifestyle. Chad, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
Great having you. So let's start with football. You were a student athlete. You started in high school. You earned a scholarship to Rice, so you must have been pretty good. So it sounds like you were wired for teamwork. How did playing football help shape who you are today?
I mean, I think, football is a great example of, kind of some of the battles you have to go through in life. You have the opportunity to play with a team of individuals that are all pretty let's say, motivated and ambitious individuals, especially at the collegiate level. And I think it really puts you in the mindset for seeing that if you want to achieve things that are great, it's going to take a team of motivated individuals to really do it. I think we can all do our best to have personal achievements, but the things that are really, let's say, world changing or what we aspire to be when we grow up, I think are usually involved in some type of team. So having that foundation and, understanding that I have to work with a group of people and I have to be able to lead and motivate those groups of people. I got a lot of those lessons from playing football and then watching coaches and watching even staff and, athletic directors and things like that kind of manage these types of operations and try to achieve success.
That makes a lot of sense. And so let's talk about the importance of a coach, because I often think about that as a coach as being similar to a CEO in many ways. Do you have, if you think back to your playing career, did you have any memorable locker room moments where maybe you were down at the half and the coach said something that really got the team going? Like, how much do you feel coaches influence how you've run your companies? And maybe you could share with us some of those insights, because none of us get to see what goes on in the locker room unless we play.
Sure. I mean, I think those are good examples as well. I think those are more like how you get through kind of those smaller battles when you have those really motivational speeches. I think a lot of times what people don't understand from the outside is that that's usually a buildup of a lot of topics. And that's why it seems so personable and it's delivered in such a genuine way, because it's not really like a prepared speech. It's not a president talking in front of a nation. It's literally something that we've been working on and talking about. And now it's the time to kind of show how all those efforts come together. And watching coaches deliver those types of kind of motivational speeches definitely helps me. But I think more importantly, seeing the big picture and the day-to-day structure from different coaches is what really helped me. When I was in high school, it's really kind of when it first clicked in my brain. When I was, let's say, 14, 15, our high school team was good, but we weren't state champions. And we got a new high school coach when I was 16. And when he got there, he was saying, no, this year we're going to be state champions. And not everybody believed him, but the culture that he created inside the city, it made everybody believe him. So, I mean, you're seeing Deion Sanders do it at Colorado right now. My coach did that for me in high school. And I was able to see, like, wait a minute, just with words and systems and mottos, you can come in and take a school that was, let's say, barely winning their first playoff game to where we're the most dominant school in the state of Texas. And just being a participant in that, as well as a player, kind of just inspired me to do a lot more in life in general. I think I genuinely believe if you put the right team together, you can achieve anything. We could be on Mars by now. So.
No, that's great. And it's impressive. Talk to me a little bit more about what the coach did, because, I don't know the extent to which he switched out players or if he just took the raw materials that he had and somehow turned you into a winning team. Talk about that transition of how you went from maybe not feeling like winners to feeling like winners.
I think, especially in high school, you don't know how hard you have to work to achieve, let's say difficult things. You're a kid. You think like, well, you just go out there and you practice and you just work your way through practice and practice is over and you go home and hopefully you win the state championship. Where he came in with an idea that this is what this entire group is dedicated to for the next year, next 6 months, whatever that is. Like, this is the only thing that exists to us. So make sure your grades are in order because this is important. versus, well, when you leave here, I don't want you thinking about football. Like, no, I want you obsessed with this. This is life right now. And so the people that kind of bought into that level of commitment, they saw more success in their personal careers or their personal, let's say, athletic development. But then you also saw people who may have been on the borderline of not even really being an athlete realize, like, okay, if I really want to help the team, I have to work out after practice. I have to double down on my extracurricular activities that complement the things that we're doing here. And that had never really happened, that there had never been such a serious entity about winning the state championship in my particular city. Well, since I was there, I'm sure maybe 20 years before me, there might have been another guy, but seeing that kind of change from one coach to another, it's not like people didn't respect the previous coach or he wasn't a good coach. He just did not have that kind of unwavering perseverance towards a singular goal. And when I say that's the only thing that exists, anyone and anything that got in the way of that was going to get destroyed. And I think a lot of times, especially in business, that's kind of the mindset you have to take with a company, is that when you set goals and initiatives, there'll be obstacles. There'll be tons of obstacles. There'll be people who don't believe, people who are, telling you, like, how are you ever going to make $1 million with a kettlebell company? I heard that like 20, times from every single person that I've ever done business. But at the end of the day, knowing that, okay, if I stay singularly focused on this and I'm measuring progress and I'm tracking kind of the steps needed to take to put myself in a position to win, that's really all I can do. And once that coach did that, we bought in and kind of did the rest. And I think that's what you have to do for a lot of teams.
So there's clearly a lot of parallels to business. So it sounds like it's not enough to just paint the picture of the vision, which is part of the role of the CEO, but it's more of the structure, the discipline, the process. Like, how are we going to get there? So where's the goal? Where are we now? And then how are we going to get there? Was that some of what the coach was doing?
Sure. And I compare a lot of things to sports. So for me, it's like, I think where a lot of businesses and especially young entrepreneurs struggle is kind of trying to design what practice looks like. What is something that you can do day in, day out that moves the company forward and it also increases your skill level to prepare for, I would consider the game, let's say, like your larger events or larger business deals or things like that. These are more of like game time events, but there's kind of a monotony to the day-to-day operations that most people don't take advantage of. Every day we're getting better at this particular skill, which after a year goes by, we will actually be experts in our field. We'll actually be ahead of anyone that's trying to compete with us in this particular area. And I try to design systems like that and quote unquote practices for employees and for the management so that we can actually track some type of progress with our skill set and with our ability to take on the challenges that'll be in the way of the company.
That makes a lot of sense. And when I think about football again, that, you see, because being a fan, so we see the quarterback, we see the receivers, we see the field goal kickers, we see the running backs, we see all those more visible, quote unquote, star players. And the fans don't always notice the other players, which is kind of parallels, I think, to business where not everyone is in the most visible role. So how do you motivate the less visible members of a team?
I think that's really where branding comes in quite a bit. One of kind of the underutilized things I think about even larger companies is they don't really use their brand to motivate and inspire the entire team to work together. I think everyone instinctually wants to work and be a part of something that they're proud of. If you could choose to work for a company that has a positive brand in society versus one that doesn't, you'd usually take a little less money to work for a positive brand. And I think that's the easiest way, in my opinion, to kind of bring that full camaraderie together so no one feels like they're not a part of the process. Like everyone feels like, no, I still work here, so therefore I'm an important cog in the wheel or cog in the system. When you play sports like football, you just learn that instinctually that the audience is not going to see the blocks that you put in place for the running back. A lineman knows that he's blocking every single time for the quarterback, never getting credit for it. The quarterback is a great throw, but the lineman literally gave him enough time to throw it. And I think understanding that from the team is more important from people to get that kind of recognition from the public. But a lot of companies don't even have that camaraderie or brand to really allow people to at least feel like they're a part of the team at work. If you're a quote unquote janitor, you don't get a lot of credibility from the public. But if you're a janitor at Apple, you have more camaraderie and you have more kind of association with the positive entity when you go to work that day.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And so internal recognition and then building your brand so that people feel good about working there and feeling like they are making a difference. It sounds like some of it is really communications, and just because you're
Yeah,
not the star, that the rest of the team needs to make sure that they're recognizing some of those less visible players, because they are critical to their success. So then take me as you transitioned from being a student athlete to starting Kettlebell Kings in college with some friends. So take us back to what sparked the idea and how you got started.
sure. I started after college. So I did start with college buddies. So one of them was my college teammate, and then another was the best friend of a college teammate, but he didn't go to our school. But it was still kind of a smaller network of college buddies who would hang out when they were in college. After I graduated, like a lot of other people, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to start my own business at some point, or I knew that was a large possibility. But I needed to pay bills, and I wanted to try to see what my college degree was worth on the open market and things like that. So I started working different jobs, different sales jobs, construction. I did that for about 4 or 5 years. I ended up at Trans Canada working in oil and gas. And after doing that for about 3 years, I kind of realized like, okay, I've kind of worked myself into a nice corporate role. And this is a good example of what it's like to work in corporate America. So I didn't really have that fear of kind of missing out on a potential career path by starting my own company. But I did have an extreme fear that if I didn't start my own company, I'd kind of be stuck on the trajectory of trying to just maximize all of the investment I'd put into my corporate career. So it was kind of a now or never moment for me. I started talking to a couple of buddies that I'd previously talked to about starting our own business. At the time, we didn't even know what kind of company we wanted to start. We literally were just like, we talked about starting a business before. Let's put some money into an account, start the business, and then we'll figure out what type of business that is that we go after. And we didn't want to just have one business anyway. So to us, it was just the beginning of our, let's say, entrepreneurship career. And once we did that, 10 years later, we're selling the company and kind of going in our different directions with all of the companies that we started. So it turned out to be a good thing for me.
That's amazing. And why kettlebells?
I mean, that's an interesting question. I think it was just a timing thing. It's kind of like they say in relationships, right? Like timing is everything. At that particular time in human history, social media was obviously growing quite a bit. So social communities and things like that didn't really exist before, let's say 2012 when we started. There were light communities, but no one's really taking advantage of them from a business perspective. So there was no online community associated with kettlebells when we started the company. And that was a big opportunity in our eyes where we're like, there's no one that's really taking this piece of equipment that's really cool and making it into like an urban brand, as well as bringing all of the content associated with this together. There were like these little tribes of, kettlebell sport lifters over here and CrossFitters over here and hardstyle people over here. And we were like, everyone needs to come together under one umbrella as a kettlebell enthusiast and people who use this tool for better health and wellness in general. And so our idea was to take that, make equipment, but then also to be like the ESPN of the kettlebell world, where we're aggregating basically all useful kettlebell information around the globe, putting it into one centralized location, and then also creating like a production type operation where we're giving people a better incentive to even get into the kettlebell space. So we knew it was a long sales cycle to start kettlebells or to sell kettlebells, but that kind of matched up with our initiatives of let's create a community, and then the community itself will purchase from us. And so it was really just seeing that opportunity. We personally had never even worked out with kettlebells like that before. I'd lifted with every other piece of equipment there is competitively my whole life, but I'd never really worked out with kettlebells. So there was a fascination and kind of a self-exploration to it as well, of me just learning it and transitioning from, let's say, competitive sports to just functional fitness for my own health and wellness routine. And like all of those things just lining up made it kind of the perfect tool. And my partners being in the kind of the same age range and graduated from college together and all these types of things. So it was kind of perfect for all of us. It was just coincidentally perfect timing.
Now, were you manufacturing the kettlebells and selling them online? What was the business?
So it shifted from the initial, when we initially started it, we wanted to be a kettlebell superstore as well as like the ESPN of kettlebells. And that may or may not involve us starting our own brand, our own line. But when we started, we knew we couldn't start our own line because we didn't know how to build a kettlebell or how to make a kettlebell. So buying one from us would be ignorant of you to do so because we have no idea what we're doing. So the idea was for us to source it from all of the competitors, our current competitors. And that's kind of what we did. We started working with basically being a reseller for everyone. Through those challenges, we realized, okay, like we're branding and kind of creating a larger community than even the people that we're buying kettlebells from. So there's no real reason for us to continue to work with them. Not to mention, we started learning that their kettlebells weren't as good as we'd like them to be for our audience. And so we were taking basically the community and the things that they asked us for and then just serving them. And one of the number one things we kept getting asked for was our own kettlebell. So that became like within the first year, we're like, okay, well, we're definitely making our own series of kettlebells. The question is, are we going to keep the others? And then because of the relationships and us making our own kettlebells, some of the others didn't want to participate in the store anymore. Some of them just didn't make sense for us to do it. And we were just like, you know what, let's make our own series. We ended up expanding to 4 different series and then into ancillary products. And then we also started up another brand. So it just kept kind of expanding from there. Once we decided we're going to go our own way and we'll develop our own products and make things ourselves.
Interesting. So you started out curated, and then really it sounds like it was the force of building such a strong community. When you say the community was asking for something different, that's a very enviable place for a business to be in. So talk to me about how you built that community.
Well, we knew early on we were testing Facebook ads and social media ads in general. So we kind of knew early on that the sales cycle was going to be long for kettlebells. You could get some initial sales just from, let's say, a cold sales ad where you're just targeting someone, say, buy a kettlebell now type of operation. But we were getting way more traction generating leads for people who were interested in receiving one kettlebell workout a week or a free kettlebell routine, like different things that were just giving value with no sales approach whatsoever. We were getting signups at an incredible rate. So, based off of the ratio of signups we were getting versus the ratio of sales to the different ad budgets, we said, okay, we're really going to go for really trying to do a lead gen type of advertising campaign over a direct sales campaign. And it wouldn't even involve any sales until maybe 3 to sometimes up to 6 months down the road after we've basically hit them with so much value. So that's where the community and the content that, the kind of ESPN style of a business model that we built, that's where that really came in, where we were able to feed these people and retest and improve the actual interaction and engagement during those first 2 to 3 months where you're not getting any sales pitches that would lead you to eventually joining the community, being associated with the brand, and ultimately buying a kettlebell. Once you started buying kettlebells from us, there was no kind of going back. So, we really realized, like, wait a minute, like if you buy one kettlebell, you're probably going to end up buying 3 to 4 more. It might take 2 years, 3 years, but the lifetime value of a customer is extremely high once you get them past that kind of first milestone.
Interesting. So were you collaborating then with fitness coaches who specialized in kettlebells, and you were creating this platform where you bringing them together with the fitness enthusiasts and, helping to amplify their brand, but in so doing, building your own community?
For sure. I mean, we used to say, and I'm giving this away now, but we used to say, like, if there's someone that you find online with a kettlebell and it's not ours, you need to get that kettlebell, get them some kettlebells. So we would not allow a person to like, oh, I'm just going to lift a random kettlebell. It's like, no, you're going to lift a kettlebell, King's kettlebell. Especially if you're doing content that we were able to find, it's already part of what we would consider our ecosystem. If we want to, let's say, take your content and reserve it to our community, we're going to have to form a relationship with you in some way, shape, or form anyway. So why not just send you all the equipment you ever wanted so that you can also kind of freshen up your brand and your look. And when you have that community behind you, as well as the cool factor and the urban brand, it's really hard for these people to say no to free, cool things. It's a hard thing for them to pass up on.
You were an early adopter of influencer marketing, it sounds like.
For sure. Yeah, we did not call it influencer marketing, and there was no such thing. So we
There was
laughed
no,
at
I mean, it was
yeah,
back then, it wasn't.
exactly. We laughed at when it was like influencer marketing is the thing, and then we're like, okay, well, that's what
Like,
kind of
that's how
what
we
we've
build
been.
our whole
Yeah,
business.
that's how we do this. Yeah. So we've been doing this for a while, and yeah, and then they become affiliates, and they have their networks that they want to get kettlebells to. Having that exclusive brand even gives you more value because it's almost like that kettlebell can cost $150, but because it's extremely wanted, if you give it to someone for free, it's $5,000 to them. It's something that's like a Ferrari. It might as well be in terms of that particular piece of equipment, because even if they would have went out and purchased their own kettlebell, they probably would have bought a cheaper knockoff of our bell, which may have been, let's say, $99 and saved the $50, but they wouldn't have had any association or pride with that purchase or with that brand. And that's what we would try to give people all the time, especially like you say, the influencers. We would deck you out with any type of gear. We would work with other, let's say, like garage gym type companies. So our network is not just us as Kettlebell Kings. We also work with people who sell other pieces of fitness equipment, and we complement one another in the promotions of things. So you're getting free kettlebells from us today, but then that leads to the relationship that you have with another, let's say, successful fitness brand that we partner with, and they'll get you free equipment, and then we'll do collaborative pieces of content, which will drastically increase your social following, and which will increase the amount of leads that you're driving to whatever funnels you have going. So it's really a complementary type of exercise once you get the system up in place, and it all stems from you having that community of people who value like the quality of your brand, the quality of the work that you put out, the instructors that you introduce them to. That's all like a curating system that we're doing internally to just make sure we're serving the community in the best way possible.
Well, it's a great fundamental model for building a lot of businesses as well. So when you launched, or as you were growing this business, or did you have to raise capital at any time?
We should have. Yeah, for the first 5 years of the business, we did not even pay ourselves a single penny. So I would not recommend that for anyone. That's a long, hard road.
That's the school of hard knocks.
Yeah, and it is not fun at all. But we learned a lot of lessons doing it that way, because everything goes back into the business. So everything just became test after this. Like we kind of have like a decision, board, if you will, on what we're going to do with these funds. And it's an interesting experiment to be able to be in a position where you have a growing brand, and you can't satisfy the demand, and you're consistently growing, and you have to try to allocate the resources that you have. It's almost like a game you wish you played when you were a little kid, that I got to actually live with my friends. And then 5 years into it, is you can't keep doing this anymore. We got to actually have something coming into ourselves and our families and things like that. And at those times, we started having the conversations about, okay, how do we really expand this and blow this thing up? So we did like some of your like e-commerce type loans, PayPal and Cabbage, and some of these types of kind of short-term loans that take a percentage of your sales when you have a decently growing brand, let's say, or ever increasing sales velocity. It's really easy to partner with those, but we didn't take on any significant funding, which is honestly what led to the conversation about the sale. So we were looking for inventory financing. And during those conversations, a lot of people wanted more than just inventory financing. They wanted a piece of the company. They wanted majority ownership, things like that. And so through that search, we ended up saying, it seems like the value of the company is pretty high in itself. Maybe we should entertain those conversations as, yes, you're going to invest in inventory and buy the company, and then we'll have some side of the upside as well on the back end after the expansion really goes global.
Really interesting. So I'm sure there's people of all ages work out with kettlebells, but I would imagine that one of your sweet spots is probably our Gen Zs, who are, I think, up to age 25 now. What have you learned about communicating with that age group?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just so interesting when you have a brand like Kettlebell Kings, because we are fortunate enough to have so many different age groups and demographics and types of people and personalities. It's, people will ask us like, well, who's your customer? And it's like, you don't even want to start that conversation. Like, depends on which way you want to look at it. What month is it? Because you literally have everyone from a grandmother to, like you say, to someone under 25. And I think you see with the people under 25, they're much more associated with brands and kind of doing the right thing, movements, cultural and societal kind of shifts in the way we treat each other and different things like that. So perfect example, we no longer have a men's and women's section on the website. It's not a thing anymore. We don't have men's and women's sets. That's not a thing anymore. So, things like that where the community is communicating to us what they want, and we will adjust and try to do things accordingly. There are situations that I think when you're a business owner, you might have to kind of stop some of the cultural kind of craze that happens. But I think there are some situations in which, it is good to update kind of the way you format or the way you structure the interface for people to be most comfortable. And at the end of the day, we want people to join the community of kettlebells and use that as a tool to grow themselves as a person. If men's and women's sets offends people, then we won't put men's and women's sets. But in our eyes, we never want the conversation to leave what's best for kettlebells and how do you use this tool to do what's best for you. And I think that's kind of been consistent appreciation from everybody. And even if you're a Republican, Democrat, Gen Z, boomer, it doesn't really matter. You're here for kettlebells.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm so optimistic about our world with Gen Z's taking over next. I just think
Cool.
I think they're turning over a lot of the cultural stigma that we've had that
Sure.
I think it's really positive.
I remember feeling like that when I was in college. And so I'm probably a little more pessimistic about it because I'm like, when are we going to be in charge?
When's our turn, right?
I still don't feel like we're in charge. And so I think Gen Z is going to have a while before they actually get the reins and control everything. I do think we're trending in a better direction. So I'll say that much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you were talking about men's and women's and how that's influenced the apparel brand, so just for our listeners, you launched from kettlebells into apparel, and how much of a shift was that for you?
So whenever I was doing everything with Kettlebell Kings, we started another company along this journey. So about kind of like 6 years in, right around the time I was telling you about, even when we started having serious conversations about financing and how we're going to pay ourselves, we started another company, Living Fit, which was basically every other fitness product that you can think of, along with certifications and things like that. So I recently sold that company. I actually sold my shares to my business partner from Kettlebell King. So he's still running that company now. But the reason I bring that up is because even through that journey, I wasn't able to really touch on, let's say, lifestyle products. Everything was still focused on fitness. And so Life Grows Green is designed to be a company, and I'm trying to create a community around people who like natural lifestyle products and would rather supplement natural options for things that are, let's say, more pharmaceutical commercial. So everything from, supplements to the bedding that you use, the glassware, CBD, hemp-based products, salves and creams. Literally, you can keep going kind of as far as you want to with the different types of products. The idea is more around the natural lifestyle and replacing, let's say, household lifestyle products with a natural option.
That's such a trend. I mean, I hope it's a trend that continues to grow. I think, we were talking about Gen Z's very much being behind that, but I think a lot of older generations are as well. And you've seen a lot of really great natural brands grow, but it sounds like you're treating it more holistically, because there's places you can go to buy your natural skincare and other places where you can go to buy your natural home products, but where it sounds like you're trying to create a community that brings all of that together, almost like, dare I say, the Amazon of natural lifestyle products.
There you go. That would be the ideal. Yeah, that would be the ideal. If I could snap my fingers and have that, I would be a happy man.
Wouldn't we all? So you've written a book called Preparing for Battle. Talk to us a little bit about what readers can expect.
Well, I mean, for me, it was one of those things where I've always kind of wanted to write a book. I even joke around like I want to write a science fiction novel one day as well. But selling the company of Kettlebell Kings and that being a 10-year journey really was kind of a reflection point for my life. And I really wanted to sum that up, if I could, into a book. And also try to give back as much as I could in terms of information on how people like myself or anybody that's kind of starting that journey can understand some of the challenges, but I think more importantly, put yourself in the right mindset for taking on entrepreneurship or even, like, let's say, business leadership. I think a lot of the the expectations for a leader inside of large companies is going to be similar to you starting your own company. And just the level of intensity and the level of responsibility is going to drastically increase once you get to a certain point. And you kind of, let's say you expect to be a multi-millionaire, it's going to come with quite a bit more responsibility than you're used to at your day-to-day job. And so I really try to talk about my journey up through high school. And, I talk about my coach and branding. And I use that to try to get you to think about the experiences that you may have had and the things that you can learn from and start applying on a day-to-day basis to put yourself in the mindset for running the team. So very much, like if you're trying to go compete in something, you got to get in shape first. I think entrepreneurship is one of those things as well. I think you have to get mentally and emotionally in shape before you start, as well as I think you need to get your personal life and those things in order, because there can be so many obstacles that can kind of deter you from success. And you might have a successful brand, but because you're not at a correct place in your life and you're not mentally prepared, just the day-to-day obstacles can break you. And, I've seen that over the majority of the time I see businesses fold. It's usually because of something like that. It's not really a problem with the product itself. It's usually something with the infrastructure or with the leadership team.
Yeah, no, I think that's very valuable advice. And, so many entrepreneurs, unfortunately, they learn through the school of hard knocks. And so it's so important when you're starting a business or growing a business or pivoting a business to, read everything you can get your hands on, or whether you're listening to it or actually putting pages and listen to podcasts and, really try to gather as much information. Because I think for any of us who've gone through those hard lessons, it's the motivation is to try to not have you go through those same hard lessons.
Yeah. Like I say, 5 years pay. Don't set yourself up for that. Don't do it.
That's not a good model.
Yeah, and I'll say that, and at the same time, I quote unquote have had success from doing it. So I even talk about that. It's like sometimes you have to do what you have to do, and there are different strategies to different things. My strategy is not the universal strategy for business success by any means. And I think that's where I go into really trying to find out, like, what is your leadership style? What is the best ways you communicate? Understanding these things before you start any type of operation, I think is going to be super helpful. So I try to really get you conceptually on the right page for a leadership position. And then I use the experiences of the businesses that I've started as an example.
Yeah. Well, and we joke about making no money for 5 years, but the benefit that gave you is control. So, we hear a lot of young entrepreneurs and their goal, like coming out of college, is I want to launch a startup and I want to get funded. Like that's almost in the same breath before they even know what the business is and have learned that experience. But that basically means like pretty much immediately you're working for someone else.
Yeah. Immediately. And another thing people ask me all the time is they're like, well, how is it working with your friends? And how is it working with, with partners? And was there disputes and things like that? And I tell them I was on football teams and I did not like everybody on my team. So I'm used to playing and operating with people who I may or may not like them on a personal level. That's irrelevant as long as we're focused on a goal. But when you don't pay yourself for 5 years, you have respect for everybody that shows up. No one's getting paid to be here. You have seen every person make sacrifices for nothing over and over and over. So you give people so much more grace than you would. Like me talking to my partner who hasn't gotten paid and been doing something for 5 years, even if I disagree with him, it's like, okay, I know you have literally been here for 5 years for free. So I'm not going to let this ruin everything that we've done. And putting that level of commitment towards something, it doesn't have to be 5 years of not getting paid, but I think it is those types of sacrifices that bring teams together and bring brands together where they become somewhat unbreakable. It's no debate on if you have the best interest of the brand at heart when you put yourself in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So Chad, what's next for you?
Right now I'm doing, quite a bit, usually, like I say, trying to organize, I guess, the next steps of my career. Obviously with Kettlebell Kings transition, I wrote the book. So I'm really, promoting and talking about the book quite a bit. I'm also doing keynote speaking presentations and workshops. I've designed some material around like applying sports concepts on a business playing field. So really trying to talk to people, especially people who have been in sports, about how you can think about some of these experiences you may have had on the sports playing field and really cross-reference those and tie those into some of the structures you build with the teams in business. So doing that, and then also obviously I'm running Life Grows Green, so trying to grow there. I'm starting an Amazon store on it for Life Grows Green for all my other products that aren't, let's say, hemp based, if you will, and really just trying to move forward with all of the operations that I have right now. So I'm kind of in a bunch of different places, but it all overlaps with my general experience, and I'm excited for it.
Excellent. I love that. Such valuable experience for entrepreneurs when you can share those lessons. How can people reach you if they want to connect?
Sure. You can reach me at chadprice.com. You can also, my email is chad@chadprice.com. I'm on all social channels, so you can reach me, Real Chad Price, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and pretty much every social channel that you can think of, I'm on there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Chad. This has been a great conversation, and I know that our listeners will get a lot out of it.
Thank you for having me.